What is up, YouTube? It's your boy, Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of $50 Upgrades, the show where I take a Precon and give you my suggested $50 upgrades for that deck. And this week, we're celebrating the release of Aetherdrift, so it's only right we start off with our Aetherdrift Precons. The list of all the cards I added and removed are going to be in the description. That way you have access to them as an easy list, as well as the deck list with the, upgraded cards in it on both Moxfield and Architect, if you're interested. Also, a couple other links down in the description. I appreciate if you could check it out, like, and comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. Today we are covering the Eternal Might Precon, the Esper Zombies deck, headed up by Temmet, Naktamun's Will. A 5-mana 4/4 with Vigilance and Menace. It says whenever we attack, we're going to draw a card and then discard a card. But whenever we draw a card, zombies we control get +1/+1 until end of turn. A very interesting new commander wanting you to draw cards, something that Esper is very good at, and then rewarding you for all of your zombies growing each turn. And there's some really fun combos we can do with Temmet. And by combos, I mean ways to really take advantage of that bottom ability. And that's what we're looking to do in our ads. So our ads here, right, we're pulling from both the new set, of course, because a lot of those cards aren't going to be included in the Precon, and, right, some older cards that were not included in the Precon. So first off, we're going to start with 2 cards from the main set. Cryptcaller Chariot says whenever you discard 1 or more cards, we're going to make that many tapped zombie creature tokens. This is great because not only do we get to make at least 1, right, when Temmet's effect goes off. But if you think about it, if we have any other cards that have a straw and discard or do anything like that, we're going to be making a couple zombies. And then if we want to, we could take a cheap zombie and crew it into our 5/5 vehicle and make it a little bit more of a threat. But I think one of my favorite cards from the new set for decks like this is going to be Cursecloth Wrappings, 4-mana artifact that buffs all of our zombies by +1/+1. But we can tap it to give a creature card in our graveyard Embalm until end of turn, which basically allows us to exile that card and make a token of it that's a white zombie in addition to its other types and has no mana cost. So what's kind of interesting there is that you can kind of get a copy of a creature that's in your graveyard. And then if you have any other ways to play around with tokens, or if you want to look into that more, you actually get the option of having that creature as a token, which you can then, right, interact with. Diregraf Captain just makes a ton of sense, giving all of our other zombies +1/+1, but it also says if a zombie we control would die, target opponent loses 1 life. So a way to kind of punish our opponents when our zombies die, allowing us to take big value of that. We're adding 2 huge draw cards that are going to act as potential, right, Alpha Strike cards for us in Distant Melody and Keep Watch. Distant Melody says we choose a creature type and draw a card for each permanent we control of that type. And Keep Watch says we draw a card for each attacking creature. Both of these are effectively going to do the same thing. We're going to try to buff our zombies by a big amount, draw a bunch of cards, right, and have that big turn where all of our zombies get buffed. Think about it. If we have 4 or 5 zombies that are attacking or for the purposes of Keep Watch or in our main phase during Distant Melody, we're getting +5/+5 that turn. That's turning your 2/2s into 7/7s, making them a lot harder to jump block, right? There's more options there for it. And I think our zombies, as we go wide, like zombies know how to do, making tokens, it becomes more of a threat to our opponents. I think Gisa and Geralf is a great include here. Whenever she enters, we're going to mill 4 cards. Or whenever they enter, we're going to mill 4 cards. And then once during each of our turns, we can cast a zombie spell from our graveyard. This works out multiple ways. Gisa and Geralf do mill us for 4. But remember that Temmet's drawing us and discarding. I mean, we're going to be filling our graveyard with zombies that die normally from the battlefield or things that we're pitching. And so what I like about this is that we're going to be able to get those zombies back once per turn. And Gisa and Geralf's not the only thing, actually, in that we're adding to the deck that's going to be able to do that. Another big page for what we're trying to do is Kindred Discovery and Knowledge is Power. Kindred Discovery says that when it comes in, we're going to choose a creature type. Whenever a creature type of the chosen type enters or attacks, we're going to draw a card. This is huge for Temmet because that means that if we have 6 zombies and they all attack, we're drawing 6 +6/+6, right? And that's great. The other really nice part about Kindred Discovery is Knowledge is Power is kind of a second copy of Temmet in our deck because it says creatures we control get +X/+X, where X is the number of cards we've drawn this turn. Remember, that includes the card we draw to the turn, right? So what I really like about Knowledge and Power is not only could you double up on Temmet's ability, but it's maybe a little bit harder for your opponents to remove than Temmet, allowing us to still have that ability to really buff our zombies. And of course, both of those work really well with Kindred Discovery. We're, of course, adding the pair of Necroduality on this slide and Rooftop Storm on a future side, these classic zombie enchantments that we really want to play. Necroduality says whenever a non-token zombie comes into our control, we get to make a copy of it. This is great for so many of our zombies. Obviously, the legendary rule still is going to apply, but more often than not, Necroduality is just going to add us a ton of value. Remember that unlike something like Reflections of Littjara, which copies a zombie spell when we cast it, Necroduality just cares about them coming in. This is really useful if we're going to try to reanimate things back out of our graveyard and do things like that. We still get access to it and can still get copies. There's the Rooftop Storm that we talked about on the previous slide, allowing us to pay 0 instead for all of the zombie creature spells we cast. This is huge, making sure that we can play so many things per turn, getting so much value down, and pairs really well with those things like Gisa and Geralf, right, that let us get them back out of the graveyard. Phyrexian Arena allows us to draw an extra card each upkeep, but lose a life for it. Again, great with Temmet, because we're getting 2, right, versus the 1 each upkeep, so we're at least +2 up, and then it's going to get even better from there, right? Patchwork Banner, a great mana rock, letting us choose a creature type when it comes in, give all those creatures a +1/+1 buff, and add a many of any color, which is important, right, in a 3-color deck, but this buff itself is just really, really good. Of course, we're adding Varina. The one card I'm very surprised wasn't in the Precon. Varina is kind of the other really popular Esper commander in these colors for zombies, and I was kind of surprised that they weren't in the Precon because I think they're the other obvious choice for this archetype. Whenever you attack with one or more zombies, we draw that many cards and pitch that many cards and gain that much life. Again, great with Temmet, right, because that's going to give us a big buff that turn. And then we can pay 2 and exile 2 cards from our graveyard to make a token. Victimize lets us sacrifice a creature we control to reanimate 2 target creature cards in our graveyard. They do come back to the battlefield tapped, but 3 mana is more than worth getting, sacrificing a zombie token to get 2 key zombies back from our graveyard to be able to reuse them again. We're adding probably the most popular zombie commander on EDH, reckon to a lot of people, in Wilhelt the Rotcleaver, a 4-mana 3/3 zombie that says whenever another zombie you control dies, if it didn't have Decayed, we get to make a 2/2 zombie token with Decayed. Decayed just basically means that it can't block, and whenever it attacks, we sack at the end of combat. And beginning our end step, we can just sack a zombie to draw a card. This is nice because the deck's going to do a very good job at making tokens, which means that we should always have a zombie around to sack to draw. If for anyone interested, you're looking at this Precon and you want maybe potentially a more combo-focused commander, or maybe in one less color and just a mirror versus Esper, I do have a brew up for Wilhelt that I just did a few weeks ago. It's a very cool zombie deck if you just want 2 colors versus 3. But of course, this Precon is best set up to go with 3, and I think Temmet is a great option for it. If you're interested in Varina, I'm actually going to be covering Varina at the end of the week. So I will have brews for Temmet in a less budgetary restricted kind of way, and Varina coming later on the channel later on this week. And then our last ad is going to be Zolashur Lichlord from Foundations. We could tap it to cast a zombie creature from our graveyard this turn. So again, another copy of that Gisa and Geralf effect, just to make sure that we're playing, more things back out of our graveyard and getting more value. But let's talk about what we're going to remove. And I'm not going to go through every card. I'll kind of pick and choose what I think are the ones I expect people to want to know about. Again, I'll say this on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck and no upgrades ever going to be perfect. There's going to be things we're going to learn as we go into testing, and things that we learn as we take our deck and move forward. I think some of these cards are really good. The question at the end of the day is there more synergistic pieces that we can add? And that's the goal of this upgrade. The goal of the upgrade is to get more synergy, more consistency. There may be individual cards that I remove that are really good, but the goal is consistency on our deck functioning, because I believe that's the best way for your deck to get better and to be better overall and to have a better experience. So here on the first page, I expect the card a lot of people are going to be looking at is Archfiend of Ifnir. This is a card that says whenever you cycle or discard a card, you get to put a -1/-1 counter in each creature your opponents control. This is a great card, and I think it makes a ton of sense with Temmet, since we're going to be at least discarding 1 card every turn. But the truth is, a lot of the draw in our deck is not draw and discard. It's just draw, because blue is so good at just straight drawing. Same thing with even our black draw spells are just going to straight draw. I think if we were playing Varina specifically, or if you were playing Hashatan, the alternate commander, I think you would care a lot more about Archfiend of Ifnir. But because we care more about drawing than we do about discarding, I wanted to put the concerted effort into finding my pieces to care about drawing and not discarding, although I think it's very useful. Here, I like Champion of Wits as a card whenever it comes in. You get to draw cards equal to its power, and if you do, pitch 2 and you can eternalize it back. It makes a ton of sense, right? If we have a few buffs out, Champion of Wits could come in as a 4/4 or like a 4/3 or a 5/4. Again, I understand. I think Champion of Wits is probably one of the cards that I've cut that I'm the most willing to bring back in. But the truth is, it requires a lot of setup to beat out some of the better cards I can spend 4 or 5 mana on to guarantee more draw per turn. And I think that was what I was trying to look at. Is this better than something like Keep Watch, where I could potentially draw 6 or 7 cards on a turn and get that big buff? Is this better than Distant Melody or Kindred Discovery? You know, there's these things in deck building where you have to look at, okay, how many slots of a draw do I think I need in the deck? How many this type of effect do I need in the deck? And the question becomes, which cards are more consistent? Which cards are better? And again, in testing, you may look and you may say, hey, there's a zombie that I have in this deck that's never done anything for me once. Every time I've seen it, maybe you pull the Champion of Wits back in. You see what it does versus that other one. But I think that's why testing is so important to deck building. And that it's not just does my deck look perfect on paper? It's how does it play? On this page, I expect a lot of people will be wondering about the Gempalm Polluter. I like it. It's a very interesting card. When we cycle it, we can have a player lose life equal to the number of zombies we have. But the truth is, I think there's just better zombies in slot, and that was my reasoning there. Here, I really like Never to Return. I think it's an interesting card. Destroy a creature on the front half of the sorcery. Get something back, a zombie back on the backside. But we have such better removal, including some that's already in the deck. And so I wanted to make sure that we, focused on that. It's going to look odd that I cut 3 lands, but the truth is, I think our land count's a teeny bit high in the deck, personally. I think also, right, if you go to add 50 or 60 more dollars, you're going to start replacing lands with just better lands in slot. I've never loved the temples. I think they're great lands, but the truth is, I think there's better lands out there that even come in untapped. And we do have exotic Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse in the deck, and there's even better other searching options that aren't Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds if you want to look into them. I'm going to get probably dinged by some people for that, but that's my decision. And then Timeless Dragon. Again, I love the idea of being able to plain cycle it for pitching a card and getting its effects, but the truth is I just don't think it fits the deck at all. But let's get into playtest number 1. Again, remember, the goal of playtest is not to find our perfect game plan. It's not to find out what the magical Christmas land of our deck is. It's to understand, how does our deck set up? What are we looking for? What are we looking for in a hand? And getting reps in so we start to understand what our deck looks like. Here we're keeping a 3-lander with the Irrigated Farmland, a Path of Ancestry, and an Unholy Grotto. Pay a black and tap it to put target zombie from our graveyard on top of our library. So a 3-lander. This is great because we got something like that Crowded Crypt there, which is a mana rock. We've got Victimize for some reanimation. And the Abomination and Plague Belcher aren't bad creatures, and, we'll have to work our way up to the Abomination, but that's okay. We're just, 1 mana away from Temmet in the future. So turn 1, we draw the Exotic Orchard. Perfect. We'll play the Path of Ancestry in tapped, because we're going to have it or the farmland come in tapped at this point. We don't really have a choice. There's nothing better to do on 1 turn. Same thing here on turn 2. I'm kind of thinking of just putting the farmland in. There's nothing I can do, on turn 2 here. I think I'm looking to do something like the Crowded Crypt next turn. Crowded Crypt, when creatures we control die, get to put counters on it, and then for 6 mana we can just sack it to get a zombie for each counter on it. So it's a great way to start just amassing value. But here I think we just play the Crypt. This is going to lead to a Temmet next turn, or maybe some other things next turn. But the truth is, we're just ramping our way up. It's always great to be able to get your commander down a turn or 2 before what its normal cost would be on just 1 per turn. So there's a couple options here. I think Temmet makes the most sense here on turn 4. I think you could also argue about something like Cursecloth's Wrappings, or putting like Priest of the Crossing down. I think both those would be good options. But the truth is, I think we want Temmet down to get it started, because now at the start of our turn, we get the +1/+1 buff on Temmet. We can play that Command Tower. So now we're at 6 mana. I like Plague Belcher, but it can be a little bit of a trap if you're not ready for it. It comes in and puts 2 -1/-1 counters on a creature we control. That would potentially hurt Temmet right now, I guess it could be itself, but I think I'm willing to just put the Wrappings down here and just attack with Temmet. We get to draw and then discard. Draw, we got a couple extra lands. I think I'm content to just pitch the Abomination. I don't really love it too much. But hey, now Temmet's a 6/6 this turn. Vigilant Menace, probably able to get in, right, for some good damage. I'm going to our next turn. That Drawn Catacomb is going to come in untapped. So 7 mana, we've got a lot. Prophet of the Scarabs is one of my favorite new zombies they introduced in the deck. When this card enters, we get to draw cards equal to the number of zombies you control or the number of zombies in your graveyard. So some very interesting options on that. But with 7 mana, I think I like the idea of the Priest and the Belcher. The Belcher, I think, will just target itself to give itself the counters. It is probably just easier that way. It does make it a little more susceptible to removal, but that's okay. We get the buff because of the wrappings, right? But so Temmet has +1/+1 right now. These guys don't, because it's a triggered ability. But we go into combat, right? Temmet attacks. It's the only one that can attack. So we're going to draw and then pitch. Nothing too good to pitch. I like the Chapel, but I do like the Grotto a little bit better. No point in pitching the Victimize, right? Because it can just help us get great zombies back. But, you know, Temmet just attacks as a 6/6, or sorry, 7/7, I apologize, because of the Cursecloth. Still a good attack, and now we've got these guys that can set up to attack, you know, maybe next turn, right, when we buff the board up a little bit more. All right, well, here on turn 7, we drew the Rooftop Storm, which is great. This should allow us to play the Rooftop Storm and that Prophet of the Scarab this turn. So I can either draw 4 on the Scarab this turn if I play it. So I would probably just hardcast the Rooftop Storm, and then that allows me to play the Prophet for free, right? It comes in and we're going to draw numbers equal to the number of zombies we control, which is 4. So now we're 5 up on the turn, right? So each of these is going to have +5/+5, whereas this Scarab's going to only have +4/+4. But again, now these are huge with the wrappings as well. You know, now we have a big attack, right? Coming this turn. Remember, I can still keep playing zombies for 0. Obviously, I can't play the Scarab God because it's not a zombie, but it does have a great ability. Now, I don't have 2 creatures in this graveyard yet, so I don't want to use this Victimize because I can't. But I think this turn we attack. So Temmet's a what? We drew 5, so Temmet's a 10/10. The Priest is a 9/9 in the air, right? Because of the Cursecloth. This Plague Belcher is it's a 3/2 right now. 5 would be 8/7. This is a 9/8 right now with Menace. Both of these have Menace, right? And now we're getting a great attack in this turn. The Priest of the Crossings getting a great attack in the air. You know, we're in great shape. And if anybody kills any of our zombies, I think we would have the mana left to put it into the Unholy Grotto to bring that zombie that died back to the top of our library so we can draw it next turn and replay it, or, you know, get it back with the Victimize. So not a bad first start here. We got our board set up. We got some zombies. If somebody wipes the board, it just puts counters on Crowded Crypt, which could potentially lead us right to some more zombie tokens in the future. The wrappings can help us embalm creatures back, but I'd say don't do it until you have to. If I can get them back with something like Victimize or the Holy Grotto, I'd rather do it, right? Because we can use them multiple times instead of doing it just the once for the embalm. But let's get into playtest number 2. Keeping Varina in a 3-lander, Arcane Sanctum, Plains, and a Swamp. God Eternal Oketra was in the deck. Whenever we cast a creature, we get another token, which is pretty cool. And then a Commander Sphere, some ramp. And then Fleshbag Marauder is an interesting zombie. Whenever it comes in, each player has to sack a creature. So most of the time, we're going to sack the Fleshbag Marauder to its own ability, but right, force our opponents to get rid of one of their creatures. But I think we just play the Sanctum turn 1. Again, nothing too scary we can do there. Turn 2, we'll play the Swamp. We see Murderous Rider, a great zombie. On its adventure side, it's a removal spell, and on its regular side, it's a 2/3 lifelinker. And again, with all the buffs we have, right, that means we're going to gain some nice life, right, in the process. I think we'll just get our Commander Sphere down this turn, right? Again, ramp ourselves up and get ourselves going. And we'll play the Grotto, and I think it's just Temmet this turn. We see Wizened Mentor, one of the new cards from the deck. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a permanent that isn't a mana ability, we get to make a zombie. So not bad if our opponents have a lot of activated abilities. But my thought this turn with Temmet instead of Varina is Varina doesn't have to attack to get its ability, whereas we want Temmet to attack to get the draw. Right, so that's kind of my thought on the split there. Turn 5, we're at 6 mana. So, I mean, Varina's 4. So, if we do that, we could do it something like Wizened Mentor. We could get Oketra down, right, to start getting zombies off casting other zombies, which would make a ton of sense to me. So, my thought is kind of like something like Oketra. And then move to attack and draw off of off of Temmet, and we drew a Bontu's Monument. Great. Good way to reduce black creature spells by a little bit, and whenever we cast them, we get to siphon our opponents out a little bit. I think I'm looking at my hand, Wizened Mentor is probably the worst creature of all of them for us right now, so I think I'm going to pitch it to Temmet. But hey, Temmet's a 5/5 this turn, and can start attacking our opponents. And then I think this turn, as long as no one's messed with our board too much, there's Hashitan, our alternate commander. Whenever we discard a creature card, we can pay 3. If we do, we get a copy of it. Except it's 4/4 zombie. So a lot of ways we can look at this turn. My thought off the top of my head is Bontu's Monument into Varina. It's going to make Varina 1 less, so she can come down for 1 less mana because of the Bontu, and we get the drain, and then we would be able to draw off of Varina's ability this turn. I could also see leaving up something like Murderous Rider, and just playing like Hashitan, and then draw and discard and see what happens, right? And see what we get, what we get access to, and maybe we want to make a copy of it, because we get to, make a copy of the thing that we pitched, right? I guess there's a world where technically we could play, Hashitan, draw, discard the Varina, right? Make a copy of it, and then we know Varina's in our graveyard if we ever want to get it back with an ability. I guess, there's a lot of ways I think we could approach this turn, but I think I like Bontu's plus Varina. That's going to get us a 4/4 zombie with Ketra, and then we're going to drain everybody for 1 with Bontu's Monument. And then I would go to attack, so we're just 1 card up this turn on Temmet's ability, but on attack, we're going to have its ability in Varina. We'll do Varina's first, so 2 zombies are attacking, so we're going to draw 2, and then we have to pitch 2, for her ability. So now we're up to, and we gain that much life, so we're up to, 3 cards drawn this turn. Remember, we have it. So I think I do the flashbag. Remember, Liliana can actually also get zombies back as well. Really nice in that sense. And I think it's the Prairie String. And then now we have Temmet's ability to draw and discard. And now we're up to 3 cards drawn during this combat, but 1 in total. So these are now +4/+4. So this Oketra is a 7/10 with double strike, right? I love the Patchwork, especially with us starting to make these tokens. And I think Sol Ring's pretty darn good as well. I'm going to pitch the Sol Ring. It may seem odd, but the truth is I feel like we're just at that point where, either we're going to have our board dealt with or we're going to run away, at this point. But, all right, so 4 cards drawn total. So Temmet's in 8/8, right? 7/10, God Eternal Ronas. They're attacking. Ketra, sorry. And we're just in great shape. I think the next turn, you can put the banner down. You can put the Liliana turn to start threatening to bring things back. And I think we're just in great shape. The Unholy Grotto can put, creatures back on top. We're in great shape as a board state. We don't really have any removal but the Rider, but I think that's okay. The truth is we have 1 piece of recursion here. We have a piece of recursion here. We have a way to make some more zombies right now with the Oketra to keep ourselves going. We have a way to make a zombie with the Varina. I like the board state. It's not the best in the world, but I think we're in a good spot, and I think we have enough value pieces to move ourselves, forward in the game. Let's get into playtest number 3. Hit with a 2-lander with Arcane Signets, Commander Sphere, the Scarab God, which we didn't read before, so we'll read now. Beginning your upkeep, each opponent loses X, and we scry X, where X is the number of zombies we control. And we're scrying, you're going to look at that many top cards of your library, and in any order and amount you want, you put any on top and any on bottom. For 4 mana, you can exile a creature card from a graveyard and make a copy of it that's a zombie, and then whenever he dies, it comes back to our hand, beginning of the next end step. Got that Necroduality, and then Zulashur to get things back out of the graveyard. So not a bad start. I think we're doing good with our mana rocks, right, to get ourselves up to Temmet fairly quickly. We see On Wings of Gold, which gives all of our zombies +1/+1 and flying, right? Get them evasive, get them up in the air. And then whenever 1 or more cards leave our graveyard, we get to make a zombie. That's pretty great, right? Zulashur is going to let us cast things out of our graveyard. That would be considered leaving the graveyard. If we Scarab Godded one of our own creatures out of our graveyard, or card out of our graveyard, that's a card leaving the graveyard, right? But I think here we just Arcane Signet. And I was going to say, I think, unfortunately, this turn we missed our land drop. So I think we're just going to Commander Sphere. We're still 1 off of Temmet, but maybe we luck ourselves out. And we do luck ourselves into our 5th mana. So I think the option is just Temmet. Get it down, get it started. Now this turn, if we had enough non-legendary zombies, I think it would be Necroduality, right? But the problem with legendaries, right, is we can't have 2 copies of them. So it takes me away from just wanting to play Necroduality here. On Wings of Gold, I feel like makes sense, right? Get some of our creatures in the air. I believe we can do this and keep the Plowshares up for some removal. And then go to combat, right? Attack with Temmet, we get to draw and then discard. I love Necroduality, but we're just not seeing... Do we just Scarab God? Well, Scarab God we can't cast with Zulashur out of the graveyard, but I guess we could still Victimize it. I want to try to keep some, the board wipe if we need it. We have some removal, we have some recursion, we have some draw. Like, I want to try to keep our options open. But hey, that's a 6/6 Temmet. Sorry, we drew this turn. We played it. We play it this turn? No, we played the on wing. So it would be 6/6 this turn, right? 7/7 in the air. So not a bad attack, right? To our next turn, we get a land again, which is great. 6 mana. Love the idea of trying something like the Keep Watch this turn, right? Well, not this turn because we only have one creature, but, trying to work our way towards it. So we just, Zulashur? I can actually pitch the Commander Sphere to draw a card if I wanted to do that. We would go down a mana, but, try to get some more into our hand. I'm not entirely sure. I think I'd probably just attack with Temmet, see what we get access to. Eternal Skylord. Okay, that's better, right? Now we have another zombie that we could play. I guess if I'm worried about getting outraced, I wouldn't pitch the Dam. But if I think I'm not going to get outraced, if I think I'm outracing my opponents, I pitch the Dam. Because I can get zombies. I guess if there's the argument, I could get zombies back. I guess I could pitch the Skylord, right? And I could just Victimize this turn, trade his Zulashur in for the Scarab God and Eternal Skylord. Maybe that makes more sense, right? After combat, play the Victimize, trade the Zulashur in for the Scarab God, right? And Eternal Skylord. Because the Skylord amasses me too, and gets all my zombie tokens in the air. But I think my thought process there is it probably just leads to a better board state, right? I still keep the removal open. I still keep the draw open. Now we've got the Scarab God to go off on our opponent's turns. I think that makes the most sense. And then going into the next turn, Scarab God goes off with 3 zombies. So we're going to, actually, before we draw, we're going to, everybody's going to lose 3 and we're going to scry 3. This is nice because then we know what's coming up off of Temmet's draw, right? Do we even need the land? Kind of makes me wonder if I just bin all 3 of these and put all 3 in the bottom because I don't really love any of them. Then we go to this turn. Okay, we drew another land. 7 mana. I mean, I love the idea of doing the Keep Watch this turn, right? Getting to draw 4. I think I'll leave the Plowshares up. Just go to combat, attack. Temmet's going to draw me and discard. Rider's great, right? For some more removal. I think I'm in the same exact scenario on, do I think I'm ahead or do I think I'm behind on the Dam, but we'll just pitch it for now. And then, right, before we block, before blocks are done, I'll just Keep Watch all 4 of these attacks. So we're going to draw 4. Now our zombies are up 6 this turn, drawing for the card for the turn. Temmet's draw an attack, and now those 4 from the Keep Watch, they're all in the air, actually, because I'm on Wings of Gold. And now we're just in great shape. We probably hit somebody for a ton of damage this turn. And I think we're in good shape. We probably, let's see, this was 11. This isn't getting the Wings of Gold buff, so it's actually on the ground. But this is an 11, it's just on the ground. Skylord's in the air, so that's a 10. So 10, 20, 25, 26 in the air. I mean, this could be a 27 in the air. This could knock somebody out this turn if we haven't, depending on how we've been spreading our love around. But let me know, what do you think of my $50 upgrade for Temmet down in the comment section below? Like I said, a more full budget of Brew of Temmet's going to come up later this week, so I'd love for you to check that out. But other than that, I will catch you all in the next one.